gentlemen, to another podcast of Staying in Trouble with your host, Adam Short and Eric Humes, coming live from the Rooftop Realty Studios, sponsored today by those rubber band marriage rings that we all sport these days.
Right? You have one? Look at that.
Sponsored.
Blue. I got the blue one.
I've had, right now this one's black, but I've had, gray, white. They come in 4-packs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
as they get lost, they get replaced. So,
Well, the one thing I notice on mine is after a little while, they'll stretch out and then they'll naturally, like this one, it's getting loose already.
Yeah.
So then when you go swimming or you're out and then it just slides right off and it's gone. But you pay what? $4
yeah,
for
something like that. Yeah.
You get a 6-pack and you can change a color for every day of the week if you want.
Yeah. So that's thanks for the sponsorship. Booyah. Good morning.
So how's everything going, man?
Good, busy. It's Valentine's season. Just celebrated our 17th anniversary, and for those listening, thank you for the support. Thank you for inviting your friends. We've got some great topics lined up. We've got some topics that we're going to tease out a little bit today.
Yes.
We know that we've had Will Birch on a couple of times. We're going to have Will back to talk about his loss over the Super Bowl.
I think he's recovering. He's taken some time to put his thoughts together. A
little chest hurt.
It was an interesting game, no doubt.
Fun.
But it was fun. It was a good time.
And we also have from the other side of the book is we're going to have some book insider come in and he's a risk manager at a local at the Treasure Island sports book, and he'll come in and give us some perspective from the other side of the table of those people taking your tickets and why they do and why they don't, and maybe give us some insights on how our listeners can get ahead in the game. That's
awesome. Yeah, well, we got a lot planned. A couple other guys that I've been kind of working on, and of course we can't drop names because we're still working on them,
You're right.
But we definitely want to have I think it'll be beneficial, but to have a tax guy in here, we can talk about, because tax season is coming up and everyone's getting their W-2s, and some people are doing them online. I don't know about Eric, but I am not a tax professional at all. So we definitely want to bring in a professional that can maybe help us out, give us some good insights. Some tax laws have changed. I know that. So he can go over that. The other one we're also working, I'm kind of working on, I've sent some emails out and talking to him, but to get a divorce attorney in and to talk about what a guy, if you're facing such a tough thing, and it's kind of the downer to talk right after talking about our anniversaries, but sometimes it's necessary. And he can go over the Nevada state laws and the things that are happening and what you need to do to protect yourself, protect your kids, and help us out. So, and we like to bring these professionals in. Eric and I don't know everything about everything, so we bring these people in and they can help us out, give us experiences, talk to them, and it turns out be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I would like to apologize, but explain, like this last weekend. It has been kind of crazy for the podcast. So what we did was Friday morning we recorded the Super Bowl special. We wanted to release it that night. I got on Instagram, was really excited. It was going to come out, and we had a lot of good content on there, and we wanted people to listen to it, obviously, before the Super Bowl. So maybe prepare yourself to go make some of those prop bets and have a good time for Super Bowl Sunday. And I attempted to do that when the company that hosts our podcast was a company, RSS. And we went to them. And obviously, when Eric and I started the podcast, we were brand new. We didn't know this was kind of a new adventure for both of us. So we went to this company. We found them online, and they seemed pretty good. A couple months ago, less than that, about a month ago, they changed their format, and I believe that they were bought out by someone else. Well, I could not release the episode, and I struggled, and the company would not put it out there. They would not let me release it. I emailed back and forth. I opened up some work tickets. We went back and forth, literally late into Friday night, into Saturday afternoon. I'm trying to get back and forth, trying to release this podcast. Finally, out of frustration, I called Eric, so he's in the loop of it all, and I said, we got to switch. So what we did was I moved everything over to Podbeam. Bean. I keep saying beam. I don't know why. Bean.
It does sound like Star Trek when you say it.
Yeah. So Podbeam, just like the beans you put in a burrito. Yeah. And I went on their website, read some reviews, checked it out. They looked really good. They helped me move all the episodes over to there. Now you can still find our episodes on iTunes, Spotify, and Pandora. But now Podbeam also has their own app. So you can download that app, and for free, you'll be able to listen to our podcast or any other podcast. So it's another avenue for you guys to find us.
Can listeners listen to us live on that?
Yes, that's what I was going to get into. So we have an option through that we can listen to. We can record some live episodes. So we'll let you know when we're doing that, when we plan that. We can have some guests. We're going to do a live episode, and we'll spit it out there at a good time, and we'll let you guys know when that's happening so you can tune in. They're going to help us with a website, with maybe even fundraising and stuff like that. They have a section for Patreons and things like it's a really good website, and it seems to me, everything that I've read, a good company that to help guys like Eric and I out starting a podcast and getting going. So please, if you haven't, check out Podbeam. You'll be able to find us on there, listen to us. You can listen to even any of the other podcasts that you guys enjoy. But at the same time, they have a lot of other good things. So we moved everything over. That's why the podcast for the Super Bowl came out way later than what we wanted to. But it worked out. And then right after I did that, RSS sent me an email and they dumped us. And they canceled everything. So, which was fine. I was planning on doing it anyways and moving everything over. So if there's any interruptions in your favorite broadband, like if you're a Pandora fan or a Spotify fan or a Google Play fan or however you listen, there could be some interruptions in some of those. I'm working on getting everything moved over, and Podbeam is helping us out, but we're definitely on them. And now I have to rework iHeartRadio, and we're going to be on there. So our main goal with all of that is just to give you guys all the opportunities to find us easily and be able to tune in and listen to the episode. So there's some cool things coming with the website, live recordings, all kinds of stuff. So I'm super, super excited for that kind of stuff. And I think on those live episodes, we can even do a Facebook Live while we're doing it, and it'll be a good time. So we got some cool things coming in the future. So
and maybe we'll do some remotes. Maybe we'll tap into maybe even some local politicians. I can reach out to them. I know right now politics is in the news. Like everything is. When you go to buy advertising right now, you're competing against political forces, and a lot of times, I think most Americans, I think myself included, have this love-hate relationship with politics, and the fact that I always feel like we never have the full story. And a lot of times as public servants, politicians can't give us a full story. So maybe we'll have either some former politicians or some current politicians to give us a perspective of what they go through and kind of give us a behind-the-scenes episode maybe of like, hey, I'm starting my day off at 6:30. Hey, it's 9:30 at night. I just got done meeting with town councils and whatnot. So,
yeah, and the Nevada Democratic Caucus is coming up only in a few weeks, and this year this is the first time that it's not just a caucus, but it's also early voting for the primaries. So usually the way Nevada works is we just have for the big elections, we have just a caucus, and you show up. If you understand how that works, you kind of stand in the group and they count them and all the delegates, and they do that. But now you can actually go to a poll and vote. Now, most of you, I plan on going to the Nevada Democratic Caucus because my daughter just registered, my oldest, and she wants to see what it's all about. She wants to see the process and understand it. So,
does she have any bumper stickers yet, or
no, she's not that crazy yet, but she's learning about it in school. She's registered, and now she wants to be kind of a part of it. And that's the one thing my wife and I always taught in our home. We're a split household when it comes to parties, but we always tell them.
Another reason why your wife is so beautiful.
Yeah, she is a good woman, but we really respect each other. And we understand our different views, but
They do respect each other on Sundays and Mondays. If you're wondering what days are best,
when you see us
Monday
at
they
church,
never see each other. Sundays they're at church, so they can't do it in front of other people. So,
But the one thing we do teach the kids, or at least the older ones that are about that age, is the importance of just be registered and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care. Think about it, research it, get out there and just do it. Exercise that right. And to me, that right is more important than what party you're a part of or anything like that. A lot of men and women sacrificed their lives and died for that right. And there's millions of people all over the world that would kill for that right to vote and to be a part of this process.
So I'm leaning more. So it's not just about the vote for me, because I've had instances in business where politics and business do intersect, and so I'm to that age where I'm leaning more towards let's not just get out and vote. Let's be active. Like let's do it. Let's be a little bit more. And it's funny because I think we've always rested that on our earlier generations, and now you and I are getting to that kind of tipping point of, hey, do we want to see differences in politics? And I think the reason why I was asking about your daughter is we have some of the youngest senators, some of the youngest Congress people in elected history. And so, and not just at the local level or at the state level, but even on a federal level, which shows that even, the younger generations understand, hey, you know what, we can bring our voice to the table.
Absolutely.
Where like when our generation was coming up, I don't want to say we were shut out, but we were kind of pushed to the side. And this younger generation coming up is, a lot of times they're just screaming. A lot of times I think they're screaming the wrong things or, without paying some dues. But on the flip side is they're putting a ton of energy into the process, and that feels good.
I think the key in that is communication. I think we've talked about that before. Being 80s parents, our parents at that age didn't talk to us about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me, he says, there's two things you never ask another man. You never ask another man how much he makes, and you never ask another man how he votes. And he used to teach me that all the time. And in some aspects, that's pretty safe way to communicate. And I still believe in the first one. I that's something I have never ever have asked anyone or do.
Joe asks me like every 2 weeks, by the way.
But at the same time, this with the next generation, like you said, I'm much more vocal with them, and I talk to them, and my wife talks to them, and we share the difference of opinions, but we share it in our home in a respectful, loving way that they can see the two
really
different
un-American,
sides.
really un-American of you guys.
We should be throwing dishes and yelling at each other, but we don't. And I feel like more Americans should be that way, that we can have a completely different. Excuse me. Lately, you know how a lot of people have been knocking on door. Well, I've gotten a few knocks on the door.
No one knocked on our door.
I know. If you're a registered Democrat, usually you're getting knocks on the door now.
Okay,
because of the caucus coming
There was a Facebook post about that, actually.
Yeah, so
about that door knocker coming to your house, actually.
So when the lady came up, she was super nice, and we visited for a little bit. And I told her who I was like kind of backing and who I liked, but we talked a little bit about it, and that was it. But a lot of them that have come to the door are shocked by. We're a split household. They thought that my wife would automatically be the same party that I am, and we're not. And I've told them many times that, we get along very well. I know where she's passionate, and I respect her for it. And that's one of the, I think, attracting qualities is I have a wife that has a mind of her own. She can think for herself and do for herself, and that I really appreciate that. But But anyways, that was going to be something I was going to kind of bring up maybe in a later podcast, is our adventures through the caucus, and be able to see how my daughter reacts to it. Sometimes those things, I've gone to them before, and they don't really get heated, but you actually see politics in real life. You actually see it happening, and I think it's going to be
Is the Nevada app going to crash, or?
I don't know. I heard the Iowa one did. I don't know how they're going to do it. I just plan on being a participant and just be there and show my daughter, hey, this is the process.
For those that don't know, so Joe and I both grew up here in Nevada, and I'm not a registered Democrat.
Wait a minute. Who's Joe?
Oh, yeah. Who is Joe? I mean, Adam and I are not. Adam and I are not.
It's early in the morning.
It's
folks.
early in the morning. I'm not a registered Democrat, but Adam and I both grew up. Joe grew up here too, by the way.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was a true statement.
I know a lot of my brother, Joe. I figured you were just talking about my brother.
So Adam and I both grew up here. So growing up here, I actually in high school worked on Harry Reid's campaign. You know, coming out of high school, you don't know what party is which or why I did in. So no, I actually worked on the phone banks on Harry Reid's campaign in high school, obviously for extra credit because that was my jam. And it's much easier just to do extra credit than to have to do the monotonous work all the time. And I
got a diploma on extra credit.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Actually, that and repairing cars. Actually, teachers would give me extra credit. Like I don't even remember taking like half of the classes I did because I just work on their cars. And they're like, something's wrong with it. All right, go in and fix it. And so for those who are thinking about a trade, you know, even though, I'm college educated now, it's because I was breaking my knuckles in high school going, I'm tired of these things bleeding all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think I can find a better path it is great. And that's what I was saying is it's actually worthwhile for us to get out there and be a little bit more active and, quit passing the buck, and I think the better thing would be, hey, maybe eventually we can get to a point where we can come together and, and that's what the great thing about a caucus is you actually get together and you hear about your ideas.
Yeah.
And, actually that is ringing true to me. And whereas it's not just, I recognize that name. I think that's where politics is right now. Oh, I recognize that name and I think he stands for that. And then someone votes for him or caucuses with him, and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea that was in his platform."
Yeah, exactly.
Or her platform, I should say. His or her platform. And I like the fact too that there's a couple states out there that, their assemblies are mostly. There's a Midwestern state that actually has more women in its assembly than men. And Nevada has had a long history of actually supporting women at both the assembly and at the federal levels. So
absolutely, and there's a sense of community, and I hope that's what my daughter picks up is the sense of community, and this is this is something that all Americans should be participating in is to vote. I don't care how you do it, to be a part of it, and I always tell her, this is my own thing, but I always tell her, hey, it gives you the right to complain afterwards.
Yeah.
So as long as
gives you a voice.
Yeah, it gives you a voice, and then you can whine and complain afterwards if you didn't like the outcome of whatever you voted for.
Well, my brother-in-law, to take it to the next level, is a lobbyist. And so he is very vested in politics. He's very vested in the individuals that make up the politics. And I think that's sometimes we see billboards, we see signs, especially here in Nevada. We don't have a lot of town councils. I know that some of the candidates have started doing not phone banks, but they do like a weekly or monthly phone call with their constituents, and that's really awesome. Like they get on the phone and they answer questions one at a time and then answer them, and then that's it. But it's great to hear some of the same questions from other people and to say, hey, this is what I'm doing for it. This is who I met with. Like this is my accountability. And then so same way as I'm a little bit more involved in the local politics, who's on city council, who's on the planning commission, things that affect my business more often. and that way I'm not stuck. I mean, I got caught with my pants down a couple of years ago, 7 years ago to be exact.
I would have paid to see that.
And I politics came back and bit me. It was a very expensive lesson on how business and politics come together. And I thought I had the politics patted down, and I thought that I had in my back pocket, and really that back pocket was one that was drawing my drawers down and and lining me up for a swatting. So,
well, and do you go to local city council meetings?
I used to when I used to do Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. Now I actually visit with.
I would like to go to maybe more. I can't do it all the time. I mean, with kids. I mean, we've talked about how busy we are with sports, and things are picking up right now.
Well, and that's why
springtime coming. But every once in a while, I think it's a healthy thing to do, is just to be able to show up and see what's going on and
well, like we
part of that.
we sponsor a lot of community events, and so that's putting us more in the community sphere. So as far as going to the council meetings, I haven't been able to do that as much, but I am meeting with more political leaders. I call them, we go to lunch on a more personal basis, or support the activities, no matter what party they are. I support their activities and some of their charitable events and charitable causes. And because I do respect anyone that is in office, and that's what I've said, like if we did get someone on, when I talk to my own local city councilwoman, and she's like, well, she has a daughter, it's in high school at Foothill, and she's like, well, can you meet this? And she's like, no, I can't do that at night. I've got like two town councils. I've got to meet with this board and that board. And she really does put in 12 to 14 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And on top of, a lot of times they have their own jobs during the day. And a lot of times those things have to take second fiddle. If you're going to be a politician, it is not for the faint of heart. It's not something like, it's not a side hustle for sure.
No, for sure.
And so I think that's where I think a lot of people need to understand and respect is, hey, they only have so much time. And so if you are really passionate about your cause, make your cause worthy of their time and be respectful of their time. You'll go a lot farther than, hey, you owe me because I voted for you, or you owe me because I won't vote for you.
Yeah.
And instead of being a pissy moany 18-year-old kid like you're raising your daughter to be, is have her go down and say, you know what, this is
I think
the
that
case.
was a jab.
It was a jab. I don't think we have that's where I think a lot of divisiveness is get in the trenches. If you want to piss and moan, get your butt down and put in some hours, because you can't take time back. You can't take time back. So if you really feel like my daughter is just starting to get in a little bit of the Greenpeace stuff, and we actually are really passionate about recycling. Everyone thinks we're moving out every week. Literally, they're like, "Are you guys moving this week?" Because we load those recycle bins up. We're like, yeah, we're all like, anytime someone's like, should we pay for the recycling? Yeah, we should pay for recycling.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, though, I started explaining to her the economics of recycling and how actually the U.S. is not in a favorable economic position with recycling. It actually costs us money to recycle, but on the other hand is, I supported, I donated for the project to get rid of the Pacific garbage patch. I don't think I should have that on my planet,
Yeah.
But we're typically a conservative family, but we're very green. If there's chances to recycle, if there's things that we can take care of our stewardship, I think that's what our motivations are.
And I feel that same way. I think a lot of us are bits and parts of all the different parties.
Yeah.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of stuff that my wife and I see eye to eye on and that we're very passionate about. And usually those line up a lot more on the conservative side of things. And then there's things that I see that are a little bit more on the left side. I feel that we're all bits and parts of it. And I think at first we should all view ourselves as what's best for our community. We're Americans, and what's best for each other before dividing ourselves within one party or another party. And I think that's really important. But what's going to be awesome is to get some of these individuals here and let them share their stories, let them share their experiences, volunteering, helping, serving as a politician. What is it like? What's their schedule like? I mean, I'll be fascinated to hear that. It was awesome having Jimmy on here and hearing the day of a MMA fighter, how much he trained, how much he worked.
Yeah, that was eye opening.
Oh, it was huge for me. I had no idea.
Yeah, and we always discount those people. We think, hey, they probably won a brawl in some bar and then got professional. But to listen to him, and I watched a couple of fights, and after that podcast, and it makes you respect. It makes you understand why the fighters, for the most part, respect each other, because they both have invested hours and years and months of dedication, and it's not taking time off. When Nate Diaz took that fight with Conor McGregor and won, he said, I know I'd never stop training because I don't know when a fight's coming. He's just he's a street fighter like that. But realistically, knowing knowing that most of there is no off season, and that it's a year round full time work.
Absolutely.
I think it's just dependent upon where they sit with injuries. So
far, with us doing this podcast, that has been up to date. And I don't know about you, Eric, but up to date has been my favorite part of doing this podcast, is meeting these individuals. We've had wonderful guests on here, each one coming with a different perspective and a story. And I'm meeting brand new people. I most of these guests that have come on, a lot of them know Eric, and some that I know, and we meet for the very first time. And it's a wonderful part. And that's, so far, this whole podcast experience for us, that's been my favorite. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories. I love to hear where they come from, what they've done. Some of their backgrounds are kind of sad, but they're able to rise up through them. Man, that's inspiring to me. We had all kinds of people on, and that's our goal, is to continue on and get these professionals on and hear their perspectives and point of views and their experiences, and talk about their special crafts, the ones that are professionals at what they are. So the attorney, the tax, the gaming guy. I mean, we're going to get all these people on.
We'll get we'll get a sportsbook guy on. Well. For those wondering, I'll reach into the bag and probably pull out a true YouTube influencer. Makes over $100,000 a year on YouTube.
Well, maybe he can help us out.
Yeah, maybe he could help us out. But same thing. Like, I love hearing the stories and being able to gather those in. It not only inspires me and enriches me, but it's also, we just talked about politics and giving a voice for a lot of these people. When we had Donovan Stewart on, I wasn't expecting him to share his full story, and I'm still taken aback by his story. And we need to have him back.
Story.
Yeah, we need to have him back and give another plug. I know it's scholarship time around the nation, and and I know a lot of parents reached out to us and was like, "Hey, could we get more information?" And maybe have him go through a little Q&A, and maybe we could do a live session.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So
and you also did an interview that we were not able to release with some mistakes in the audio, but I was able to hear it, and I wasn't here for. What was the gentleman's name?
Hans Rahauser. He's a tenured professor at UNLV.
Fascinating story. It really even moved me. And for fathers out there, I don't want to ruin the story. I would rather you hear it from his mouth. But we're going to have him back on, and we'll have the audio a lot better, so it's a better hear for you guys. And we'll have him on and to share that fascinating story for him.
Absolutely.
But it's been a big blessing. So before we end, I got one quick question for you. Something happened to me even earlier this morning. You and I, we've already talked. We're born and raised here. We know a lot of people.
Desert rats.
Yes, we've been here. Is there, you ever run into people that you know, but you do not know their name?
Me?
Yes. Or are you really good with names?
I'm really good with names, but
Man, I'm jealous.
But I am getting older, and I'm getting older. Like I used to be like spot on, but there's people that I think I surprise people when I haven't seen them for 10, 20, 15 years.
And you remember their name?
Oh, I remember their name, and I pick it up with them just like it. I just had a friend in town
That's
last
a talent
week,
right there.
and we were just talking about our friendship. Like we don't talk that often. Like we probably talk once every 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. And then we'll spend a couple hours together, and it's just like we were back in school together. But when I don't remember, usually I have my wife or one of my work assistants with me, and we've developed a little, some side systems to how to overcome that. So, or I will just, I'm decent with words. I have my quick tongue. I'm decent that I can come in and go, slightly, approach someone and say, I know I remember you, but hey, what was your name again?
Yeah.
And because a lot of times people don't, it's worse for me because I'm a ginger, and it does feel like the reason why I try to remember everyone's name, the one thing I was taught in school over everything else was, the best compliment you can ever give to someone is what? The number one compliment.
I have no idea. You're good looking.
Remember their name.
Remember, I believe that. Yeah.
Is because you mean something to them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't remember their name, you don't remember how you met then it means you didn't really make an impact.
See, now you're really making me feel bad. This morning I was in the gym and I'm working out, and there's a guy there, and I know him.
Lightly working out, yeah.
Easy now. I know him. I know him from high school. I know his face, and I completely messed it up. And I felt super, super bad. And I mistaken him I messed up his name, and I swore I thought that was his name, and I was completely wrong. And I felt super bad. And even afterwards, he was cool. He was super polite. I mean, everything was good. We shook hands. We talked a little bit, caught up a little bit. And after he corrected me, I realized what I did, and I realized who it was and all that stuff real quick. But I continued on with my workout, and he continued on with his. And the rest of my workout, I was really beating myself up. I'm thinking, man, dude, why can't I remember these?
So my wife is horrible at that.
Just like you said, the greatest compliment is remembering their name. It's probably the worst insult, like what I did at the gym, and forget their name or I mess it up. And that's a struggle that I have, is I constantly want to remember these names, and sometimes I completely foobar. I know who the people are. I recognize their face. Matter of fact, sometimes I can even name their parents. I just mess their names up.
Well, so that's where my wife and I compliment each other. Like, she's horrible at remembering names, absolutely horrible. And I think part of that is we just got our hearing checked out, and we're going to have to look at some hearing devices for her, because all these years, I think it's genetic, and also because everyone in your neighborhood went to a lot of rock concerts.
Yeah, we did.
And so her hearing isn't as peaked as my hearing or my children's hearing, where Sarah and I can be talking at a normal tone, or what Eric calls a whisper, and my oldest is got desert rat mouse ears, where he can he can
hear anything.
Oh, he can tune in like a champion. And so I think that's part of those things is I just had that. I want to know if it's a talent, but it's something I always work on.
Well, that's good. I think it is a talent. I think it's an asset, and maybe it's definitely an asset that's helped your business and helped brand you as the person, as a realtor and stuff like that. That I think that's really important. It's something I just definitely need to work on. It's kind of a personal goal of mine, is to make sure that I remember these names and learn the skill sets to do that, because I feel really bad.
We'll work on it.
But like I said, if I've done that to any of you, it is not on purpose. It is something I'm definitely battling. But anyways, Well, we appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. We look forward to many more episodes coming. That's why we wanted to do this one, is just to kind of give a plug of what's happening. There's
Just want to give a plug
changes.
for our sponsors again, for Rooftop Realty for sponsoring the studio space. And then once again for our rubber marriage bands that have stood by us this whole time and are looking for an opportunity to be replaced with different colors soon. So,
Right on, man.
all right.
All right. Well, tune into Podbeam and all the other places, and there'll be more to come. And we're going to continue to work with them, and this podcast will definitely be able to grow. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
excited, man. All right, man. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.